The year is 2010. With the gaming industry absolutely on the rise, horror games being worked on with many different companies trying to quickly create the next cult classic, rapidly pumping out games with improved graphics just to stand out. But here lies the difference between the entire gaming industry and just the horror genre. Horror was a lot more unique, as the indie scene specifically has been shown to pump out many creative projects that's caused many people to gravitate towards them. That's not to say that an indie game is always better than a larger studio and vice versa, but we have seen time and time again just how influential small projects can really be as they grow out of the creators' expectations. It's absolutely wild just how creative people can get with one main goal: cause the players to feel scared or absolutely disgusted. With some of the most beloved RPG horror games ever made being Mad Father and Misao, both created by the same person, a developer who made two beautiful works of art only to almost completely disappear afterwards. This is how this obscure game somehow won the hearts of a generation. Mad Father was originally released on December 10th, 2012 and hit the internet by storm. Like most indie projects, it gained its popularity due to various different content creators that decided to play this game. It's actually kind of fun noticing the mutually beneficial relationship that these game developers and content creators have, as some of these videos have millions of views, giving up free publicity that otherwise would not be possible without a massive marketing budget.
Oh, no! Rum, right up the butt. Rum. Okay, no.
That being said, there are two versions of this game. The first obviously being the original, and the remake that was released on November 5th, 2020. Now, this new remake changed quite a bit, like the graphics, dialogue, enemies, and to my knowledge, a lot of progression within this game. For the sake of this video, I'll be playing through and talking about mostly the remake, but do understand that it might be worth picking up the original to play just to see the differences for yourself as well. There will be one major change with the introduction of a new game mode, but that's for much later on. When we actually load up the game, we don't get any creepy music, nor do we have some sort of Silent Hill type ambience to put us on edge. Instead, it's a soft and quiet music box. Honestly, the Mad Father soundtrack has some really amazing music that's been perfectly crafted to draw out the right emotions at the best time. It's a deliberate choice to make the title screen so calming, yet so sad. Being dropped off to the actual normal story, we follow Aya, who has gone down to see her father after she could not fall asleep alone, giving some important lore such as the next day being the anniversary of her mother's death. This would be a sad and somber moment if not for the screams of someone and the sounds of a chainsaw. Surprisingly, even as a child, Aya has understood completely what her father has been doing, being some sort of scientist actively doing something within his lab which involved many different animal and human test subjects. But we learn even more: the introduction of his assistant, Maria, who seems to be much more than just a simple acquaintance by their dialogue. This is insanely heavy. As just a prologue of this game, we absorb so much in just the first few minutes that it feels absolutely refreshing that there isn't some long drawn out intro just meant to draw out the runtime. The game developer knows exactly how to draw players in to want them to figure out what exactly is going on within the story. What is really happening within that basement? Is this new relationship somehow related to the death of her own mother? And most importantly, can we afford to get a pet rabbit like Snowball? All questions that most likely popped up in the heads of those who play this game for the very first time. As we finally are able to control our character, we awake in our bedroom near the middle of the night. Thinking of our mother has caused us to reminisce about when she was still alive. With her portrait right next to her bed, the most notable thing about this is how Aya recognizes the real relationship between her father and his assistant, as if they never really bothered trying to hide it, only amplifying her suspicion that perhaps her mad father did something in order to be with his new mistress. Looking around, clicking almost everything leads us to her first memory out of many, when her father gave us this pretty doll, with one simple line that foreshadows so much about the future: "It's almost like it's alive." For a horror game, it really brings out a variety of emotions in such a short amount of time, from you feeling sympathy for her mother's death, shock from her father's sudden reveal of being a killer, with both confusion and worry as her dad seems to truly care about us at moments, with that quickly being overshadowed by a creepy line of how realistic this doll is. As we tire out for the night, we snuggle back into bed only for us to be dropped off singing as her dad has given us a flower crown. It's an adorable moment between a father and his daughter that we almost kind of forget what we saw literal minutes ago, being the first time we see best girl, Aya's mother, on screen, apparently having some sort of illness and getting medication specifically from Maria. Of course, this was probably one of her happiest moments in her life, which ultimately would get interrupted by the screams of her own father. With absolutely no survival instincts to our name and a single brain cell that we share with our pet rabbit, please remember that for later on, we decide to rush over to help. The way this game absolutely changes the atmosphere in such a smooth and quick manner is insane. With these zombie-like doll creatures, we get reminded that this truly is a horror game, the art style being oddly beautiful for such a creepy design. Thankfully, behind us, we do hear a voice of a stranger. Running towards it, we find Dio as a child who seems to be able to help, except getting scared, we run back, forgetting about the two creatures we were just trying to escape from, only to lock ourselves in our room. This is known as Ogre. Out of all the characters within the two games, this one is the most interesting to me. Not because of his personality, anything he really does, but instead the sheer mystery surrounding him. In fact, we don't really know a lot of information about him other than his appearance. He kind of is like a supporting character helping Aya in the background with information and hints, but not really doing anything directly. The first time we ever see him is in our bedroom, where he tells us the corpses running around the mansion we live in are the direct result of a curse. Each of these monsters being our father's test subjects, all with the same simple goal: to take revenge on our father. This is when the conversation between these two becomes more strange. Aya's first thought is that she must go save her own father, with the ogre immediately saying, "Do you understand? He's killed countless people just for his own experiments." The anger each of these test subjects had to endure, not being guilty of anything other than existing. Everything that's happening now is simply the consequences of his own actions. But Aya, despite knowing this and understanding it, doesn't reply. Instead, just runs off. We'll try to dissect each of these characters' motivations and growth within the story, but do understand that Aya is a child at this moment. Whether that is truly the reason why she does what she does is still up for debate. When we leave, we get shown the crows for the very first time. This is how we save the game. Other than crows being quite literally the coolest looking birds with their completely sleek black feathers, it's quite fitting for this game, especially understanding how almost every enemy that we encounter essentially came back from the dead. Something that has given me an enormous amount of trauma is failing through quick-time events inside The Walking Dead and the various other horror games that have them. Everyone knows that having an abundance of these within horror games is just so much fun. No sarcasm at all, especially when you fail over and over and over again just to wake up next to your last save point. At least we get a quick warning when this happens as our screen flashes red, then a random key will pop up. Along with these QuickTime events, we get what I'll just be calling button mashers, which are quite annoying as well. If you click on absolutely everything, great, you're doing a good job. You'll be finding secrets and the many hidden ways to progress the story. On the other hand, you'll be jumped by some random doll holding a knife just because you clicked on a painting. Why? Screw you. That's why. This game is quite unforgiving when it comes to its gameplay. Like, if we go to the bathroom where the bathtub is absolutely drenched with some tasty red wine, of course, the correct thing to do is to try to collect these secret gems. I'll be talking about these gems near the end of the game, don't worry, since they're very important. However, if you do pick up this one specifically, had you not known about this occurrence, you would have just probably panicked not knowing what to do, but all you really need to do is simply pick it up and just immediately run for the exit. A lot of this game really seems to rely on having quick thinking and fast fingers, needing you to really have to save quite often or else you might lose quite a bit of progress. After some walking, you'll be able to discover something called a doll room. So detailed that it barely seems like a doll. I guess we should probably remember that for later. Something that I noticed is that this new remake almost seems to be heavily toned down when it comes to anything related to body horror. The two examples I'll be showing that heavily express this being our first encounter with these creatures, as in the original they were very much horrific zombies, with the remake taking all that away for a much more doll-like appearance, with the biggest example that I found being the basement. Within the original, it's this disgusting amalgamation of bodies found downstairs, messed up together, being so grotesque that it generally catches you off guard the first time you see it. Though in the remake, it gets completely discarded and instead, it's just a giant pile of dolls. It's kind of disappointing since the disgusting horror within the original was really what captured my eyes when I first played it, though there will be an explanation as to why these changes occurred, which I'll just be explaining later on. That's not to say that there aren't moments that shine that scares a player, as within another bedroom, we'll get jump scared by a mother who is looking for her daughter. As we continue forward, we know that we need to get through the dolls within the basement, with our solution being found inside the library. Reading a story of a girl that had the power to control flames, who went on a journey to reunite with her family that she was separated from, burning away everyone who tried to stop her. Still, in the end, she never met her family and was ultimately left all alone. An oddly poetic story that tries to foreshadow quite a bit for the future, asking the question, just how far will Aya go to save her father? Will she try to help him, even if it means hurting those who are just victims in the situation? Walking around, we get a few more stories and pictures of one of its experiments. As this thing hugs us, we don't get a personal flashback, but instead, a memory of this little girl. As they cry for their mother, laying on the stained table, Aya is forced to watch what her own father did, hurting an innocent child. As they drop their pendant, we can go back to the bedroom where we found that mother in order to reunite them together. It's moments like this that makes you question whether it is truly worth trying to save your irredeemable father. And trust me, we are just starting this game, not even seeing the surface of how truly depraved he really is. Within that very same room, once we're able to unlock the safe with the code, we get access to mother's belongings, a lamp, and somehow one of her perfumes falls to the ground. Touching it triggers another cutscene where we get to overhear father say something like, "I love you, Maria," with our mother following shortly after, with this apparently being the first time your mother first witnesses your father cheating on her with his assistant. We learned some crucial information about her since Maria was, quote, "some girl he picked up from the street." Whether this is literal or not is uncertain, but rage understandably fills her up as she throws the perfume bottle outside of her room, an anniversary gift from our father that we had to put back inside of her dresser, taking this single bottle with us as a good luck charm. As we get out,
whoa, button master event, yay, please give me more of these.
As we get out, we can make it to the kitchen where there's this innocent puppy munching on some tasty food that probably had a heartbeat just a few seconds ago. For now, we don't care about him. Instead, we care more about what lies under the kitchen. A pitch black storehouse that we can now access with our new lamp. With a small hole in the ground and a locked door, what do we need to get? Obviously, it's Snowball. We need to first pet him. If you don't do this option, you're a heartless monster who deserves the absolute worst. Trying to bring him along gives us one of the more weirder flashbacks, as it gives us proof that our father does at least have some capabilities of being an actual doctor, as he seemed to fix Snowball's leg when he was injured. It's a very strange and perplexing choice to add these humanizing factors to what we may consider a horrible monster. In Aya's mind, these moments are who she sees her father as, has. Just a dad who's been nothing but kind to her, which allows us to kind of understand why she does what she does. Going to save him, knowing exactly what kind of man he really is. Also, using Snowball as an item is just so funny to me for some reason. I don't know. I don't want to know. So let's move on. Snowball, obviously terrified for whatever that was, runs away. As we go after him, our light goes out. Probably just our imagination. This is one of very few scenes where the art style of the original was actually better than the remake. This is obviously just opinion based, but whoever was behind us being clear is a lot creepier to me, especially since these scenes only stay on screen for barely 2 seconds. We don't get a key to unlock the storeroom or anything that could be perceived as useful at that moment. Instead, all we receive is a wire. This is a required item needed in order to create a makeshift torch. After all, we still need to find a way through the basement where father's real crimes truly lie. As we light the torch and have everything we needed to progress, we make it towards a giant pile of dolls. This scene just doesn't hit the same as the original. Like I said, I understand the changes, but at the same time, when we had this before, the agonizing screams, the loud sounds of flames flickering, and the abrupt silence that follows as soon as we leave scared, it means something. Almost as if she's slowly becoming just like him. It's dark, it's horrifying, it's purposely eye-opening due to just how shocking this scene really is. A little girl looking at the various victims of her father combined into one thing, burning them to literal smithereens just so she could walk past them. It wasn't made to be just a scene that had no reason, but so the player can really start to question, what is the point of continuing if all we're going to see is a slow corruption of our character becoming just like her father? Aya is knowingly harming victims now, just to achieve her own goal, disregarding all those around her even while knowing and understanding their pain. Even if it is slow and we haven't even seen the worst of it yet, the mere glimpses of those before should have been enough to know what we're doing right now is not just. Even so, we press further. Deeper within this new area that father has never allowed us to enter. We finally enter the lab only to find Maria on the floor. Something happened here. Maria says one thing of importance before passing out, bringing up mother. Before Ogre suddenly appears out of thin air. He obviously knows a lot more than he's willing to tell us as he disappears as quickly as he came. It doesn't take long for us to find out why her mother was brought up, as in the very next room, lined up with more test subjects, she's standing there right at the end of the hall. A red stain on her chest, showing that she most definitely did not succumb to any natural causes. Was it father, or perhaps Maria who did that? Once again, literally appearing out of nowhere, Ogre tells us that the specific incident was from a woman's curse, from anger directly targeted towards our father. The only reason why I could ever think of a reason why mother would ever hate her father was simply due to his relationship with Maria. Not like there's many other reasons. But that's beside the point. Here lies the true beginning of Aya's journey. The first floor of the basement. Piles of bodies that were being experimented on. This is kind of a funny scene since there's this talking head who's looking for his body. We don't really have a choice since just by trying to move on, his body is there, is slowly walking towards us. We may not have done a perfect job, but hey, we helped at least. Back to some more creepy horror. A girl is crying as it seems that her father has taken her eyes for some reason. Does this mean anything right now? Nope, but you know what does? A chainsaw, a literal chainsaw that we're going to be playing with for most of the game. Just by picking it up, we get another memory, which is weird since most others have a purpose for the plot. Here, the only noticeable line I believe there was about how he put it somewhere else that was out of our reach. Perhaps we already snuck into his lab beforehand and have seen things previously without his knowledge. Or maybe I'm just overthinking a game that was literally made quite literally a decade ago. Who knows? Regardless, it is so fun going around using a chainsaw on literally everything. Just having it. I know we probably won't be able to get the chance to use it on actual enemies since that would make it too easy, but just the thought of actually having a chainsaw makes me feel so much safer. Since we can take on the whole world, why not go around snooping in Maria's room when we have the chance? We could leave her room, or we could look through her diary like the nosy little demons we are. Reading it leads to a flashback to the day where our father found Maria. Our mother was being quite literal when she said father found her on the streets as she was begging for food, looking as if she was on the brink of starvation. This was probably how he found so many of his test subjects, those who were less fortunate, giving promises of food and shelter only to be experimented on soon after. Although she was only brought in as a test subject who probably should have only cared about herself in this situation, she finds an injured man within her cell who she nurses back to decent health even while he was on the brink of death. Seeing his talent, he doesn't choose to experiment on her but decides to recruit her as an assistant. Maria quite literally views father as a savior, someone who not only gave him a completely new life but showed her love and respect. He was her everything. It's no surprise she doesn't care about anything he does since she feels as if she owes him her entire life, her entire existence. That being said, we turn into Mr. Beast as we give this girl her sight back. What's interesting is not every single thing here has the same goal. Some obviously want to tear apart our father into shreds. Understandable, but others just want whatever was taken from them. Remember how Aya is slowly learning the extent of her father's crime? Well, the very next room is this infinite stairway. Every time we walk down the stairs, we just appear at the top of them once again. The reason we cannot progress is due to this ghost, who will accompany us to allow Aya to pass. Once we make it past a certain point, we aren't in a flashback, no. Instead, we are actually in this girl's memory. Almost as if we went back in time in her body in order to relive the events that she had to go through. Unable to speak or act, she has to witness her father hurt this woman as if she was her. Aya is straight thugging it out afterwards though, looking traumatized for exactly 1 second, then just going back to whatever she was doing. No words, no comments, just okay, I guess? You want to know what's more horrifying than reliving death itself? It's finding out the snowball probably didn't get better and was probably just replaced with another rabbit. I could excuse mass murder in order to conduct various experiments way worse than torture, but replacing Snowball is where we need to draw the line. Try to understand that I am skipping quite a bit of content for the sake of time and really only handpicking the most important scenes related to the story. The reason why I'm saying this is because we are at the chapel in the basement where we get a warning that once we make it past a certain point, we won't be able to go back for quite a while. This really isn't a warning to say we'll get soft locked, but to say, hey, there's probably some lore or some shiny gems you're missing out on that you can't get if you get past here. If you want to 100% this game, make sure you did everything before going ahead. We make it to winning this button masher leads us to another interesting flashback where our mother reads us a bedtime story. A red-eyed stranger gave Jack the power to curse others. Jack says thank you, now I can have my revenge. I wonder where we saw someone with red eyes. I guess we took our promise about never hating father to a whole new level since, wow, we are completely blind to literally everything around us. Finally, waking up, we appear to be in the chapel once more, but Dio, with a bandaged face, is here with us. He seems almost frantic, trying to take us away from here, knowing that there will be more dangerous things further ahead. But it's how he mentions, she asked me to do this. She asked. Never mind, Maria's hardcore, I guess. Straight sniping Dio with a bunch of scalpels and walking over his body afterwards, no hesitation. Even while knowing some sort of demon, ghost, or whatever supernatural entity is waiting for her, she runs off after it to save the doctor. Once she leaves, we try inspecting Dio's body, but we simply fall into another flashback. Our father seems to want to make him into an assistant and even shows us off. We may have not known much of his existence, but Dio definitely knew us, always in the background taking care of us as much as he could without really showing his face. So, what would make father take away his eye? Up ahead is one of the weirdest sections, being this room of memories. As you open up this book, we're transported into this dreamscape-like place where we need to copy what we read into the room. On January of some day, I took the life of an animal for fun, quickly getting addicted. There's always dead cats and birds in my room. Mother gets mad when she finds them. Whenever mother is out, I hide the corpses in the dresser. Some completely normal behavior for a child. Possibly a few days later, mother found out I was killing animals. Mother scolded me. Shut up. I silenced mother with a knife. Mother fell over, all red. It didn't suit such a pretty face, so I wiped mother's face. Her dead face was very pretty. It really doesn't take much for us to understand whose messed up childhood this was. I got scared and ran away. Far, far away, over the ocean. I wanted to forget everything, but I couldn't forget mother's pretty dead face. I did it again. I eventually got addicted to seeing people's dead face. Now, don't ask me how this man somehow got rich enough to buy a mansion in what is essentially a foreign country and somehow kept the charade up for so long, but we don't need to know that. We can at least understand how this all started, as his obsession seemed to be with people being both dead and beautiful. Thankfully, Aya isn't completely like her father. She would never directly hurt someone, right? Well, at least it wasn't intentional. After every single thing we just talked about, let's recognize that it is a lot for anyone, much less a little girl. After a very short but packed adventure, we can't take it anymore, just collapsing right then and there, with our final thoughts being about father. Although Ogre won't help us directly, he still gives us some assistance, such as giving us a safe place to rest, allowing us to dream about our mother for a short while as the smell of her perfume fills the air. Wait, what? This thief stole our mother's perfume and won't give it back. Armed with our child-sized chainsaw, we already know what to do. Hunt her down and steal it back. Aya's on her A game right now, tracking her down, finding out where it is, and hidden doll on the wall. The only significant part about this section is a message saying, "You said I'd be family. You lied." Father seemed to have said to quite a few people that they're going to join the family, maybe as a way to earn their trust or simply as another form of sadistic pleasure to torture his victims. We make it to a room that we cannot progress due to a doll doing something to it. That thief from before tells us that if we destroy this doll, we'll be able to pass, but if we set this doll on fire, its soul will burn as well. Since we can't just rip off its head, we had to go through this annoying puzzle just to make it to the incinerator. So, was that Maria who did that with the scalpel? We needed some sympathy points for her, I guess, learning that she was a thief, stealing, just to survive. With our father, just continuing this trend of pretending to bring people into our family, consistently telling them that we were going to be their new sister. Only to... You told me I'd be family. You lied. I just wanted to be part of your family. Cool story, bro. Anyways, this dog eats our key, so we decide to use this mandrake that will scream so loudly that everyone who hears it would just straight up die. We use something so we can't hear it, of course, just so the dog can perish, and we dig into its stomach for a key. Do you start seeing a pattern here of just how more and more messed up Aya seems to be getting with her actions? She's definitely apologetic right now, but is she actually feeling sorry, or is she just telling herself that to believe it? This is where we make it to the actual incinerator, which is more like a volcano, I guess. This doll tries to guilt trip us into sounding like our mother, which was a major mistake on their part, since down to the fiery pits they go. Either Aya is going completely crazy, talking to her own subconscious, or some ghost is whispering to her, since before we make it to one of the final areas of the game, we ask ourselves, why? Why are we going to help him, knowing exactly what he did? If we do save him, so many more innocent people will get hurt, over and over again. We have seen his childhood, his past, and the consequences of his own actions, yet we push further still. In front of us is a portal to the other world. Ogre appears once again, but this time, he does actually try to give us something useful that he calls magic water. A very vague product that he promises will help us greatly with the power to seal curses. Things are getting quite wild, so let's just jump head first. Ogre doesn't really seem to be rooting for us, nor does he seem to be against us, just a neutral party that sees this as entertainment. The dark space is a magical but weird place. When confronted with our mother, she directly tells us, "Did you not see everything your dad did? Like all the experiments, body parts, mutilated people, even without all the flashbacks of you literally going into the bodies of his victims, you couldn't have just forgotten what you have witnessed, since everything probably happened within the span of a day." Are you okay in the head, Aya? You're my daughter, why are you so hung up on a promise when he's literally worse than Ted Bundy? Of course, our main character, whose IQ, like I said, was being shared by an actual white rabbit, just says, "So, is this about you not liking Maria?" At this point, her mother almost looks like she's putting on a show after she says this, almost forcing it to really seem like the only real issue is his relationship with Maria. All I'm saying is that there's pretty valid reasons not to like your dad if he literally has countless vats of people in actual dungeons with cages. The architect must have been paid a fortune not to ask any questions. Realistically speaking, Aya is at most 11, so her mother taking him away is really going to make her all alone. That being said, almost nothing is going to stop her from bringing her father with her to the afterlife. The curse she has made her extremely powerful, but we do have that magic water which can reverse everything. We do have a choice here: grant mother's wish or save father. Might as well do what we came here for and just save him first. So she sprinkles her with water, which does make mom fade away slowly. We're transported in a room filled with dolls, with father looking like an absolute mess. Mom is completely gone with absolutely no way of coming back now, but she has one thing she has left for us. One final message so we can learn the truth of everything. One last flashback. It's the beginning all over again that we have seen already, but we get to hear everything our mother has that day. It was never about cheating, never about his work with other people. It was always about us. Aya. Father was experimenting on other people consistently in order to make us into his perfect doll, forever young. When our mother confronted him, it didn't end well. Maria seems absolutely shocked, more distraught than father is. Maria might have actually been fed and believed the lie of father telling her that she was part of this family, viewing even our mother as something to be cherished even if the feelings between them weren't mutual. Afraid, we need to back away only to find our mother's body preserved into one of his dolls. His idea of beauty is something that should last forever, combining different parts of people and even animals to create one single thing. Here is where we need to get out.
Yeah.
The panic you feel in this moment as your father's laugh echoes behind the door, his voice as he says your name, the sound of his chainsaw breaking it quickly, the desperation you need to get away. Any small accident could be your last. It really is an intense moment that feels like it was worth the wait as the ending. After some running, we somehow meet up with Maria, who just woke up, running past her. She's obviously confused at what's going on since moments ago we were just in some sort of dark fantasy-like world. From our understanding, it was established between Maria and our father we were going to be used to become a doll, but at the same time, we were going to be created into one. Much later on. When Maria cannot find us within literal seconds of us seeing her, father goes even more bonkers and just slashes away at her. Maria is quite a simple character with her motivations. She views her father as her savior, someone who took her from the worst living conditions to a place where she is able to sleep and even eat properly, but she isn't completely evil. She doesn't do anything proactively, at least from what we have seen, is extremely passive. The only real time we have seen her get violent was probably when she took out Dio, but this could have just been due to her being extremely protective of Aya, who she doesn't view as a daughter nor a sister, but is still someone who is family to her. She cares about her and how she feels about these kinds of situations. Instead of being a completely malicious monster like our father, all of her actions can be simply boiled down to the orders of our dad. Although not having a conventional family with her father's not so secret hobby, Aya did grow up with a loving family as we've seen from her multiple flashbacks. She was mostly happy, getting nearly everything she could have ever wanted, but that can't be said about Maria, who we have seen had a difficult life, starving on the streets before father found and recruited her. Even if she was supposedly to be disposable, and with how manipulative she probably recognized him to be, due to his actions and methods of luring his victims, this was still the only family she's ever had. It wasn't perfect. She had to do a lot of horrible things in order to stay accepted within it. But still, this was home to her. When we see father leave, we stop her bleeding and she says to us, "Thank you for caring for the likes of me." She knows that all she will ever be to her father is just a tool to use, but even if it's fake, she's willing to play the part. Aya may have recognized this as she wants to escape with her now. I'm the same as you. I thought I couldn't live without father, but with how father thinks of us. As messed up as the situation is, in a room filled with stained tables, Maria being quite wounded, just barely bandaged up, and a crazed lunatic on the loose, Aya decides to think positively. Losing father to them both always meant losing the last piece of family. Aya quite literally lost her own mother, while Maria never had anyone. So, with this moment, they decide to rely more on each other in order to never be truly alone ever again. And with that, off we go, slowly running off, except her wounds are just too much as she falls to the ground. We don't have the luxury of being able to worry about others right now as we quickly need to run away. It's over. We were caught in the end. A doll latches onto us, letting him catch up. Aya tries to reason with her father one final time. All we wanted was to stay with him forever, but their version of that is extremely different.
Wow.
Deo X Maria comes limping out of nowhere as she manages to save us at the very last moment. This scene means a lot due to how much this creature right here meant to not only Aya, but also Maria. It's one thing to run away from the one who meant the world to you, but to actively harm them so you could have a better life is something else. They really are each other's only real family now. But wait, he's not dead. Dio was never actually dead and came to clutch in the final hit. From what we have learned, he was never malicious towards anyone, not even our father. He did have hate for the things he did to him, but his only real goal was to protect us. He didn't really have the chance to since the first time we ever met him, we immediately ran away. With the second time, he turns into a porcupine, but in the end, he did actually help us. One final thing is needed to be done in order to truly cause those affected by the actions within this mansion to be at peace. Set the whole place ablaze. So much was done that needed to be washed away, but Dio has one last request to ask of Aya. More like a promise. Please, never forget the people who were sacrificed here. Father always made sure to grab victims that had no one, no family, no one to remember them by, absolutely no one to even know they even existed at all. So please, don't forget. Keep the memories of those who were lost in his place in your heart. And that is a final goodbye. Always in the distance and in the background. As we pick up Snowball, we leave with Maria, with what was home since forever. As we step outside, we watch as the mansion slowly burns down. But before it fully collapses, we decide to leave as Maria promises to protect us always. Maria, for some reason, feels very uneasy as we go back to the mansion. It's pretty much confirmed that whoever this was is not human, and unfortunately seems to have taken quite an interest with Father, promising to let him research as much as he wants. We'll probably just see glimpses of what this means later on. The reason why the gems were so valuable was because they were collectible, but the collectibles actually did have a purpose for the story. It's not because it changes anything, but instead lets us see what happens after the credits. It's many years into the future as we see this random woman come to a small little cabin simply called Travis Clinic, a place that's very much in the middle of nowhere. Aya has grown up and made her own place where she allows her patients to get examined without even charging them anything. This woman is called Jean, who has always been sickly since birth, but was too poor to ever get a real doctor, deciding to get a checkup here as her last resort to get better. One of the final messages before putting her under with anesthesia is how her eyes are just so beautiful, and that she will never have to suffer ever again. Slowly, it pans to another room as Maria whispers, "Indeed, the mistress is much like you, Doctor." And that's the normal ending of Mad Father. Although it could be inferred that Aya is also experimenting on those that are less fortunate, it never is clearly shown at all. Maria could be talking about her medical talents, since in all honesty, we wouldn't know what her true goal will be for these experiments. Would she be focused on what her father did, allowing someone to become a doll forever, or something else entirely? As much as that would be a surprise, the signs were always present from how Aya has always been dismissive of any pain that victims have shown in order to reach her goal of saving Father. But after the credits hit, Aya says 2 lines about "we promised, so I can't ever forget." As messed up as it would be for this cycle to just repeat all over again, this clinic of hers where she's performing examinations for free could be her way of trying to atone for her father's sin. Of course, there's no way of truly causing those atrocities to completely disappear, but they shouldn't. Like Dio said, he doesn't want what happened there to be forgotten forever. This could be her way of never letting the past really disappear. We also get glimpses of what happened to Father and the stranger. I'm assuming this is a lab between worlds where he cannot be interrupted at all, seeming to want to recreate Aya as an adult, showing that he's never really stopped obsessing. We'll always be together, my adorable Aya. Although kind of open-ended, this is considered the true ending of this game. Weird that this man doesn't really ever get repercussions for his actions, and if you think losing his wife counts, no? He very blatantly did not show any sadness about her death. He only truly cared about Aya And the way he did care about her is very questionable. Talking about Mother, what happens if we let Mother take away Father as an option? Father reaches out for us one last time before things become white. We are again transported back in the same room as before, but we're completely alone. Where Mother would be is this weird contraption that's leaking. As we explore, we find Maria once again, who's asking for the doctor. Understanding he is gone, she begins freaking out. The curse is gone, but it's just Aya and Maria now. As she's leaving, she tells a broken Maria, what will she do? But Doctor, I will show you the future you saw with the mistress. I'll make it real. Doctor, I love you. Well, I guess we could ignore the whole Maria isn't generally a horrible individual section that I made, so just pretend that part of the video doesn't exist. We could just also chalk this down to a mental breakdown after hearing how the love of her life is gone forever. I swear, she isn't always like this. Remember how we also helped Maria up before and we lived happily ever after? Well, you could just leave her on the floor, genuinely. As revenge, if we choose to say Father and then run away like last time without helping Maria, we get to the same exact scene where the doll holds us down, but there's no one to save us anymore. Father wins. We get turned into a lifeless doll, set on a chair for as long as he lives. I have said that I do kind of hate how a lot of sections within a remake have turned less... The right word is kind of hard to find, but I'll use mature. From a lot of the enemies becoming deformed zombies into dolls, with the biggest and worst example of this being the wall that should have been in the basement. I've already talked about that, so I won't repeat myself. From a gameplay and visual standpoint, I still do not like it at all, but that could just be my nostalgia heavily clouding my judgments. However, from a story perspective, solely based on lore, it makes complete sense to change a lot of the enemies into more doll-like creatures. Think about it. All Father wants to do is somehow have a way to preserve beauty forever. His way of doing this is violent and mostly to create lifeless dolls that cannot age, rot, or even decay. If you're paying attention to the beginning, I said how we were going to be dropped off in the normal story. There are actually two new storylines we can make it through, the first of which being Blood Mode. Aya excitedly runs to Maria, telling her that an old lady in a black hood gave her a weirdly colored apple. When I say that she was sharing a brain cell with her pet rabbit, I really wasn't lying. Maria is saying, don't be an idiot, but she just... Yeah, she's an adult now, but she wakes up in the exact same place we started in the beginning. With all of our memories intact of what happened, we do get sad news that Snowball did in fact pass away in the future. Rushing out, we get greeted to this very familiar scene. We don't even get the chance to talk to Dio as he disappears. In the past, we ran away from him out of fear, but since we already know everything, there's nothing to be scared about. Strange. As if everything happening is just us reliving it all over again, instead of actually going back in the past. What's pretty funny to me is instead of panicking to run back to her room, Aya just calmly walks there while staring down the monsters. The only one who seems different is a red-eyed stranger who knows about the apple. We are between life and death, with the only way to escape is to destroy what created space. It's really fun seeing the reactions adult Aya is having from the normal playthrough's incidents, almost like a mix between boredom and fascination that all of this happened to her in the past. One of my favorite scenes being the missing child in the archive room. Originally, we were terrified of it and even pushed it away, but here, we give them a hug to comfort this child, understanding what they've went through. Instead of getting a normal flashback, we seem to be watching what happens as a third party, such as the instance where Father ironically tells Aya as a child not to hurt living creatures since that'll cause them pain, or this other scene of making Maria promise to entrust Aya onto her should anything happen to him. This usually would mean protecting her, but I think we all know what that means. Since this is essentially a quick rerun of events without needing to do much, we could get through things pretty quickly without having to think too much. That being said, please don't judge me too much, but we already know that the looping stairs are the result of a ghost in the corner. I don't know if you could just go through it normally, but me being me, I love spamming the chainsaw button while walking around, so I accidentally just... I'm so sorry, but if it works, it works. We get to see Mother Dearest asking Dio to protect us, which is something he barely did, except for all the way at the end. Now, you must be asking yourself, why exactly am I going to be talking about all of this? It just seems like the exact same game, except for maybe some secret Easter eggs here and there. That's exactly how I felt too, until I made it to one part. Do you think you can make me better? I want to be a doctor like you. I want to help people suffering from the same illness as me. Hey, doctor.
I want to keep living.
This was the same place we passed out before out of exhaustion. If you have a TikTok eroded brain like I do and forgot who that was, it was the same exact girl inside the true ending who we treated or potentially killed due to the implications. After losing her mother's perfume, when waking up, she isn't panicking or even angry, instead smiling, saying, "I remember you too." Really hitting that she never really forgot about the promise about always remembering those involved within this place. The message on the door from before changed strangely from "you said I would be family, you lied," to just one word: murderer. What's a little strange is that girl never really appeared to interact with us directly again, not from the jump scare within the storeroom, seeing her fiddle around with the perfume, nor in the doll door. Weird to just dismiss her completely, instead choosing to replace her with this doll where her last moments were. The plot thickens. Before this memory room was about father's childhood, it's now about mother. And it seems that she was actually the first person to seek out various different people romantically, as shown within his letter. Dear Dr. Redder, I was deeply intrigued by your article. Is it true that you killed 10 people in one night? I would love for us to meet and chat. I'll wait for your reply. Monica Dravis. Okay, maybe comparing him to Ted Bundy wasn't that far off for how they both somehow have fan clubs. Getting closer, we see that the desk our mother was writing on has scattered letters directed towards a prison, but the names are for multiple men, showing that our mother may not have been as innocent, wholesome as we previously thought, having some dark fantasies of her own. This continues as her mother's grandfather passed away, giving away his mansion. Instead of grief, her heart is instead filled with thrill, expressing how her family had some forbidden research, most likely related to the experiments father later took over. Grandmother told me not to take grandfather's last request seriously, since eternal beauty has to do with leaving descendants to live into the future. I'm conflicted on who to listen to here. As Aya's growing up, there's an implication that she would have had to become like father, since that is probably what it means to be the successor of the Dravis name. Continuing forward, we find a letter which is directed towards father once more. Since he never replied, she tries to reassure him that she's not joking about his love for him. The madness she sees inside of him only causes her own heart to flutter. They have met before somehow, with that first meeting resulting in father trying to actually end mother's life. Instead of normal fear, mother felt a thrill that she's never experienced before, believing that those feelings from that time were a love. For whatever reason, father let it go. Along with this letter is a map towards her home. What's the most interesting thing within this letter, of course other than the other crazy things that were revealed, is the fact that this place used to be a base for a religious group. It's never specified what exactly the group was, nor what they believed in, but it could possibly explain quite a bit of the strange occurrences that happened here. As we move forward, we see the portal to the other world. When entering it, we hear the constant sound of father's voice over and over again. We don't have a choice on what to do here. Instead, since we picked up the magic water, it's implied that we're on the same route where we chose to save father in the true ending. Aya seems happy to see father, but the most notable piece of dialogue comes from him. "I've missed you, Aya." being the only real time where someone within his whole alternative universe actually acknowledged us as a grown-up. Except of course the red-eyed stranger, but he's an anomaly so he doesn't count. Sure enough, I can't change how I feel as we continue to run away from father once more. This chase sequence is pretty similar to the original, except we never meet up with Maria again. When we make it to the end, we ask ourselves, why am I running when I only have one wish? Things play out like usual. There hasn't been a day I wasn't reminded of you and mother, so you could do as you please. Before anything else happens, we hear Maria's voice telling us to open our eyes. If we get lost here, she really will be left all alone. And with that, we take our magic water and give father a hug, right before splashing him with it. I understand now why you want to turn me into a doll, father, because living is so painful. What happened that day is burned into my mind. That must be the curse of the Travis family. I'm going to live, father. I'll go on carrying this curse for your sake too. After this, we awaken on our bed as we talk to Maria. Now, we learn quite a bit of information that's important to the lore of what exactly is going on within the story. To be honest, it's very easy to view just father as the main villain of this game. I mean, it is in a title and he is most of what the story is centered around. However, when actually looking back on what really happens in between each situation, our mother very much takes on a role so much darker than we realize. There is so much hiding underneath each character. To really understand everything, let's take the perspective of one more character so we could truly dissect the story as clearly as possible. If mode starts off right after Maria saves us in the true ending. As Aya is resting, Maria and Dio are talking. It's more of an apologetic conversation as Maria recognizes that Dio isn't like the other corpses walking around and feels terrible for attacking him that one time. It's not like he's going to be here for much longer since he's only being kept alive by the power of the curse. After it's fully gone, he'll just disappear along with everything else. He's not scared nor is he angry, instead simply accepting his situation as fate. As he leaves, he tells Maria to live on in order to protect Aya. Now we are in control of Dio. We get to explore around the mansion a little bit. As we turn on the campfire, we could talk to Mother once more, asking for one more favor in order to say goodbye. In another room, this creep always needs to pop up, so he's just drinking some tea and vibing. We learned that he supplied Dio with some medication in order to heal up that original knife wound that was gifted to him by Maria. For love, people become crazed, fighting and hurting each other. Like I said before, all of this is just a game to him in order to be entertained. He doesn't even try denying this at all, with Dio even questioning what his actual goal here is. His face changes into a Sonic OC's DeviantArt as his eyes become dark, and he says, "I just enjoy observing deranged humans." Teleporting to the window, he continues. He's gone bored with just observing things, deciding that he simply wants to be part of a puppet show. Dio gets mad, but he teleports right behind him. The world wouldn't be entertaining if it only had lunatics. It's the presence of good people that lets those lunatics shine, which is the only reason why he did not let Dio die. So, if you would, please, stand against the madmen with your justice. I'll be watching closely. Moving on, we go into the bathroom. Inside the cherry-filled bathtub is this old man who is someone I didn't mention at all. He appears during the original playthrough but says some cryptic message of, "Curse that youngster, doing everything the woman says." And so deceived as to not realize her true nature, that woman's going to create a demon. She's even crazier than the doctor. There's a reason why I failed to mention this weird old man previously, but it was mostly so we could connect it easier to the plot that we're currently revolving around us. It wouldn't have made all that much sense at that point of time. As we talked to him, we learned that the youngster he was actually talking about was Dio. He first came here as a servant too, I'll bet. Same for me, but I wasn't like the others. I was taken in to be a servant, not as raw material. That was back when the woman was still alive. As I worked here, I came to learn the true nature of this family. I fled in terror, as fast as I could, but I couldn't make it away. Though I was pretty clever about it too, but that woman saw right through me. A woman who could read hearts, can brainwash people with no problem. Yeah, she well and truly tricks you. Dio just straight up asking, do you mean to imply Monica, our mother, brainwashed the scientist? Whatever kind of person she is, her feelings about her daughter are real. If that's how you feel, I guess. Leaving, we see that Aya has already woken up holding Snowball. Things go as they once did, but Dio doesn't seem to disappear. Adal asks him, aren't you going with them? He would want to, but they're going to try to move on from the events that happened within his mansion. Dadal asks a pretty interesting question. If you believe in fate, do you believe you will meet up with them once again? Then if you do, what will you do if Aya takes the same path as her father? He tries to dismiss this completely by saying Aya understands the test subject's pain more than anyone else. If that did happen though, then I would stop her. Looks like Dio was a bit special for some reason as he never fully disappeared. In fact, this makes what the stranger said earlier make much more sense. Why Dio was saved wasn't only to protect Aya in that one moment, but instead to help set up another story between Aya and Dio, almost like a recreation of events that happened today. He did say he wanted to become more involved in a quote-unquote puppet show, which is why he's currently now, but slowly, trying to make a new story that is able to entertain him. I mean, he's not human and has shown to have a lot of supernatural abilities. His lifespan is probably much more than a normal human's. A couple of years to wait on Aya to grow older to start replicating her father's crime would probably not even be that much time for him. That being said, let's start talking about Aya's mother. All throughout the story, she was seen as the most sane person within that home, never implying she ever helped father and instead was watching everything he did from the sidelines. At least in a normal story, it was clear who the main villain was. Mother wouldn't ever want to do anything to her Aya and even came back from the dead just to place a curse so powerful to take anything that would ever bring harm to her. However, there are various things that really contradict that. Within our mother's diary entry, we could see that she writes, my heart is warm to see that my daughter is grown up. I caught a rat yesterday and showed it to her, and she was so merry. I could have cried from delight to think she enjoys it so. Perhaps she resembles her father in curiosity. I look forward to seeing her mature. This could be just talking about how she's growing up and not really about her turning to another version of her twisted father, but it's the next diary entry that turns this darker. Simply unbelievable. I was sure he and I shared the same feelings. To think I was wrong. If he learns of my desire, he may take her and flee. In that case, the only way I might raise her into a fine adult is to deceive him. I'll play the part of a dull, average mother. Not to worry, I'll make sure she'll meet my expectations. Monica was always someone who had a dark fascination with murders. Now, whether or not she was actually into the thought of the action itself or the individual who does it is unclear, but it's undeniable that she probably wanted Aya to turn into a monster, which is why that old man comes in again. He knows some sort of secret that's too vague for us to understand. However, the idea of a demon coming because of Monica could have multiple meanings, with the most believable one possibly being about Aya. Aya herself transforming into a real demon is not what I'm talking about, but simply artificially creating a person whose only real goal being to become a heartless monster whose only purpose in life is to take the lives of others in the most brutal way possible. She wants Aya to not have any empathy for others, but surprisingly, father does not agree. In fact, will actively try to teach her to have compassion towards other living beings, almost as if he wants her to live a normal life, extremely different from his own. This isn't some sort of weird redemption arc that I'm trying to explain where father was secretly the good guy all along. Not at all. He is very simple in his thought process, much like Maria, a true monster whose only purpose in life is to try to preserve beauty forever. And his method, this requires making living beings into eternal dolls. The reason why he does not want Aya to turn into a monster is so she wouldn't be corrupted. He wants her forever to stay his perfect innocent daughter who he loves, forever seen as just another another doll for him to display on his shelf. His sadistic ideals were always there since he was just a child as he took his own mother's life, which is when he first saw beauty in her lifeless face. But that is probably not when his whole doll obsession really started. In fact, I would dare even say that he was only consumed with the idea of a lifeless face. It wouldn't be until he met Monica where he's influenced by her to start making these experiments. A bold claim, I know, but hear me out. Within Monica's journal, we see that she talks about forbidden research within her own family, was conducting way before she met father. In fact, it's very plausible that she really did influence him since her grandfather talked a lot about internal beauty. It's a reason why Monica very much cared about father's experiments. She was the one who even showed him what to do and gave him all of her family's research. Although probably not directly helping him with the research at all, she still was very much influenced by his actions. A man obsessed with eternal beauty and a woman who found the perfect person to manipulate. Unfortunately, in the end, the mother really does win. Aya isn't growing up to be this innocent girl, but instead truly does become just like her father. Probably not as violent nor as cruel. It could possibly be due to her, quote, understanding this test subject's pain, but she uses anesthesia to first put down people with incurable diseases. Then what happens next is simply a mystery. Even when one of the memories of a person who she had taken haunts her, she's completely unfazed. Her father once did find a dead cat within one of her drawers, hiding it, much like he used to do when he was a kid. While her mother would have been absolutely ecstatic with this occurrence, showing that she has true potential of becoming a monster, her father doesn't want that. My treasure, she will be dirtied, going back to the idea of his perfect doll becoming corrupted. And that's basically every single character talked about, except for one. I mean, we did talk about how he started to become much more hands-on within these certain events, but there's still one secret detail that was brought up that was never mentioned again. The idea that this place used to be a base for a religious group. Like I said, I don't believe that this was ever, and I mean ever, mentioned again. There are some glimpses like pews at the cathedral in the basement, and possibly the portal that could be found. Other than that, not really. Let's just assume that whoever this stranger is really some sort of demon or deity that this previous group worshipped. He knows quite a bit of information about nearly everything that's going on, comes and goes wherever he pleases, and overall can influence everyone's decision while always staying in the background. Not really wanting to revel in that spotlight. What happened to that previous group or what they did in the past is so buried that to make any kind of theories would be too heavy in speculation. And I did try finding any information about them within the games, wiki, and even the various online forums discussing Mad Father. Almost nothing, and when it was mentioned, it was really only done to ever talk about Mother's letter. So, for now, he's one of the biggest mysteries within a series. I've tried to find out more information about the creator and their other works. It was created by a Japanese game developer that goes by Sen. For a game developer that created two of the most well-known horror RPG horror games, it really is kind of strange just how little information we have about this creator, though that could just be due to me not understanding Japanese, since a lot of the websites that I did find that could be related to Sen were in a completely different language. Either way, this was an extremely fun experience. So, you finally made it to the end. If you watched the entire video to get to this point without missing any section, thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate it. We went years in the past to take a look at a game that was a small part of my childhood. Playing it surprised me with how much I enjoyed it once again. We went on quite a journey, talking about the gameplay, story, and what weird hidden parts of the lore was scattered all around. This was something that you should play for yourself. I'll leave a link to the game of both the remake and the original. If you liked this video, like and subscribe. Leave a comment about something you liked, hated, or just surprised about. I know a lot of people are pretty disappointed about the ending with Aya becoming just like her dad, so what are your thoughts on that? In the meantime, I'm tired, so I'm going to go take a nap. Until next time, my friends.